All right. Hello, everyone. We're going to get started. It's 2:10, and I got on my voice. Okay. I want to welcome Daniel Massillon. He will be our speaker today on our TED Talk. Danny is a Prep at Pingree alum, and now a Cornell alum. And he's going to share some of his experience, his young experience, with us. And I know you'll enjoy it. I'm looking forward to it. And here we are. Without further ado, Mr. Massillon.
All right. Hello, everyone. Wow, there's 2 pages here. I just have a question. Is everybody coming from doing classes? Like, what was done prior to this 210 meeting? What was on the docket?
It was like and stuff.
It was what? Say it again.
It was like mostly extra help with like math, things like that.
Okay, so we're coming off of like doing schoolwork for the most.
Kind of sort of.
Yeah.
All right, cool. This has nothing to do with school. Just like I just wanted to get that off the bat. I want to talk to you guys about my experience at Prep at Pingree, my experience in college, but I'm not really going to talk about the academics, more of the life lessons that I think you can, take with you in any academic setting. So a little bit more about myself. My name is Daniel Massillon. I went to Prep at Pingree back in 2010 and 2011, which is really crazy. That's just really crazy. And I literally remember having other alums come and tell me the year they were in the program. And I was like, wow, that's kind of long. So to be doing this is kind of weird. But I know it's, yeah. But I love Prep at Pingree, man, because it really instilled in me this confidence that I could do anything that I wanted as a student. And I want to encourage y'all to take advantage of this program to boost your confidence as a student. Going into high school, having Prep at Pingree in my experience just really made me feel like I could conquer the world. I could learn anything that I want to. My problem solving skills were through the roof, and they were going to grow, obviously, but I was just really excited to learn. Prep at Pingree made learning fun. And so I just want y'all to like go into this with that attitude of knowing like learning can be fun and it should be fun. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it not being fun. And yes, I'm 22. I just turned 22 May 27th. So, but yeah, so that's a little bit about my Prep at Pingree experience. I still keep in touch with a lot of people from the program. I actually went to college with somebody from Prep that I did Prep at Pingree with. So, make sure that like you keep in touch with the people that you're doing this with, because I promise you, these are like relationships and friendships that can last a lifetime for one, but also will benefit you in the future. I can't tell you how many people I've hit up just like, hey, I need to pick me up. And people like some of you guys may know, or maybe not, and Jason. So there's a lot of good energy in this program, and to leave it on the table is taking it for granted. So make sure you do that. The second thing what I wanted to spend most of the time talking to y'all about was my college experience. So everybody has an idea of what college is going to be like, right? We see it on TV, and I don't know, do we have the race hand feature here? Anybody heard of the show Dear White People? Right? No? Okay, if you heard of it, um, Dear White People is a really good show. Everybody should watch it, I think, for one. But the reason why I bring it up is because I watched Dear White People before going to Cornell, and I was so excited and terrified at the same time because I was looking and I was like, wow, my dorm room is about to be lit. It's gonna be so beautiful. I'm gonna have a nice apartment space, you know what I'm saying? Things like that. I thought everybody there was just like gorgeous, you know, and like you have like just nothing bad can happen. It's parties, you can play your music loud whenever you want to. The libraries are really there to look good rather than serve a purpose, and things like that. So it was really interesting to kind of take the Hollywood idea of what Ivy League schools are like, and then compare that with what I actually experienced. Um, so a little bit more about Cornell, and then I'll talk about my experience. Cornell is it is the youngest Ivy League institution, and every time somebody hears Ivy League, you know, it's like, whoa, that's a big deal. Um, the first thing I want to knock is or the first thing that I want to tell you is that a place is made by the people, not the opposite way around. So people make a place what it is, and I don't care if you want to, you know, if you end up going to community college, if you go to a private institution, a public institution, no matter where you go, the place it's not about a name. And I learned that the hard way. Just because people have, you know, titles associated with them or are generally recognized for having this sense of, you know, prestige doesn't necessarily mean that they're worth following or they're worth, you know, they actually, you know, warrant that respect. Um, and so just keep that in mind, right? Like when we're thinking about what we want to do, where you want to go next year, this is true of high school and anywhere you go, think about the people, right? Like prep at Pingree is, you know, Mr. Mayo, it is Miss O, like it's the people that you're with, it's your student counselors, and such. And so when you leave, like I can't, you can't take anything else away from the program other than what the people bring to it, right? And so you're part of that. Um, so when I say people make the place, I'm talking about the people surrounding you, but also understanding that you have something to contribute. And I'll get into that with a couple of stories, but just know, like, whenever you enter a space, you are bringing something to the table. Don't ever think, you know, when you're walking into rooms and it's like, oh my gosh, like everybody here has this or that, and I don't feel like I'm supposed to be here. Like you got to tune that out and remind yourself that you bring something to the table that everybody else doesn't have. There's only one you in the universe, right? Like you exist, and there's never going to be another you that exists. So that is valuable, and wherever you go, you got to bring that to the table. um so that's that. Is there any questions about what that means or what that looks like? This is gonna be a conversation. I'm not just gonna talk to y'all. You know, it's Zoom University. I don't do well with it. So if you guys have questions, don't be afraid to ask them. But yeah, okay. So the main story that I'm gonna tell y'all is a story about how I almost failed organic chemistry my freshman year, and essentially like just was about to quit Cornell altogether, and like surprise happy ending. I just got my degree in the mail too, so it's official. Like I actually graduated. Miss Nick Orgo was not it. So here's the story, right? Like if y'all are like me and if you're in this program, I know it's true that you're smart, you're intelligent, and you have ambition, you want to learn, you're excited about learning, and that is amazing. If you're like me, you also have a lot of ideas, desires, and passions about what you want to do. And going into college, I, not to not to my, my fault, I had at least 5 different clubs that I wanted to be a part of. I was in 5 classes, and I was traveling to sing. Um, and so just right off the bat, don't do that. Like, if there's one lesson from this story, um, I stretched myself way too thin, and it's one thing to have experiences and to go ahead and try new things. I'm all for that, but there is a level of balance that we all need to have, where we do things right, and we have fun, but we also take time to rest. And um, there's a culture that comes with college, especially in competitive, areas, where it's I gotta do, I gotta do, I gotta go, I gotta go, I gotta go. Exactly. You can never rest. You feel like if you're not doing something, somebody else is doing something. Everybody's out to get you. You can't you help somebody else with homework. If I can't win, nobody wins type mentality. And that is really toxic, and that's something to avoid. But that's the premise of me going into organic chemistry. Orgo is one of the classes you got to take as a pre-med student. So I entered college knowing that I wanted to be a doctor. I'm on the road to trying to become a physician. And so there's a certain group of classes that you're required to take in order to pass, or like be on that track and prepare yourself to go into medical school. And Orgo is just like notorious for not being it. Like, it's just not fun for a lot of people. It stresses people out. If I could summarize it for you, just like an experience that I had in terms of workload, we had lectures 3 times a week for an hour, and you were expected to put in, on average, 4 to 5 hours of work in studying per lecture. So I was supposed to spend 15 to 20 hours. Nobody ever does this, but I was supposed to spend that much time studying for Orgo to try to. Uh-oh, somebody's turning up. That's a jam. But yeah, so all that to say, Orgo was a lot. And I came in, thinking, okay, Orgo, here's something that's hard. I'm ready for the challenge. I love challenges. I like doing hard things. I'm gonna do Orgo. I'm gonna get an A, and I'm gonna still do everything else that I have going on. 2 singing groups, all of the clubs, yada, yada, yada. So, the first week was good. The second week was good. I took my first exam. I got a B+. I was like, whoo. And one thing you'll learn when you get into college is that, like, a B+ is actually an A because of these things called curves, where they just take all the grades and do a little dance with them. But I was feeling really good. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I could do this. I could do this. And then the second prelim hit. And I kid you not, I think I walked out of the exam after 20 minutes. Okay. And that reflected in my score because I got a 20 out of 150, I want to say. Yes. I'm looking at everybody's face. Everybody's faces went, oh. And guys, when I tell you I was crushed, I cried. Okay. I called my parents. I was like, y'all, like, this is not it. Take me home. I don't think I'm supposed to be a doctor anymore. I don't think Cornell was the right choice. I essentially freaked out, right? I'm panicking, and I was like, Lord help me. Like, I'm supposed to do this. Like, what? Like, how am I supposed to get an A? All of these things. And I ended up having like 2 or 3 friends in the class who were doing fairly well. And, rather than go to them and ask for help, in this competitive arena, I was like, I'm going to just, mooch off of them. I'm not actually going to ask for help. I'm going to just show up, pretend like I know what's going on, I didn't share my score with them or anything like that. They were doing all right. And so I was just like, I'm going to study with them, but I won't ask for help, and I'll pretend like I know what's going on. Lesson number 2 of this story, guys, faking it until you make it is the best way to not make it, like ever. Just don't do it. I ended up being more confused because the problems they were doing were at a higher level than what I was looking for. And then I felt more dumb because I was like, y'all are on chapter 6. I was still on chapter 2. Like what's going on here? And so it took a big stab at my pride to realize that I had to be honest with myself and the people around me to say, hey, this isn't making sense and I need help. And so make sure that you communicate that, right? What I ended up doing was going to see the professor. His name was Bruce Gannum. And little did I know, he actually he grew up in Massachusetts, and went to school around the area. And so I introduced myself and I was like, Professor Gannum, I'm struggling. I really need some help. And I will never forget, he said, Daniel, send me an email with some times to meet. And I was like, oh, a meeting? I'd never done office hours before or anything like that. And we found a time to meet, and I explained to him what was going on. And the first thing he did was tell me, okay, like, there was no shame. There was no you're dumb. There was no you're supposed to know this, or you're behind and like you're inadequate. You need to step your game up. He never like shamed me for what I thought was a failure, right? And so the big takeaway that I want to share with y'all is that failure is not something to be avoided. It's actually part of the process when it comes to learning. And you don't get to have understanding. You don't get to have the titles and all the great experiences that you do about knowing stuff if you don't fail. Because I bounced back after meeting with my professor, and learned how to study better and things of that nature. And I didn't get the A, but I got a B, and I have a great story. Like, this is why I'm talking to y'all. But it really encouraged me to see that, you know what, even when you do mess up or you don't meet your expectations, it's not the end of the world. It's not an opportunity for you to belittle yourself and diminish your value, right? This idea like, oh, I didn't get this score, so therefore I am now less than the people around me, anything like that. Right? Take the time to what I do is I call it more meditate, move. So mourn over the fact that that grade hurt. Like, to get a 20 out of 150 hurt, and I did feel like I had failed. So I was like, all right, you know what? Cool. Go through that process. But then meditate on the fact that that process doesn't define you. That one instance doesn't define you. I took way more exams after that one, and there were so many other things to come. And so it's really important to meditate on the fact that, like, even when you get something wrong, that doesn't mean that you're not dumb. You're still intelligent. And in fact, the fact that you got something wrong means you have the capacity to learn from your mistake, right? And so that's really huge. And then move into the right direction. What for me, that was, saying bye to a couple of clubs that I was doing on the side, because I had to realize I was just like stretched way too thin. Or going to my friends and saying, guys, we can't go through that problem, right? Like, run it back. I need y'all to go through that with me. So even now, and I remember doing that at Prep at Pingree, right? Like, if you guys are doing math problems or something together, don't be afraid to be like, excuse me, can we go back? That's super important. So mourn, meditate, move over failures, but understand that they don't define you and they don't diminish your work. The last story that I wanted to say real quick, and then I'm just gonna leave it open for questions. Mayo, you'll tell me to shut up if I'm going too long. Is a story about self-advocacy, and this relates in two senses. So I had to self-advocate for myself by going to my professor and saying, "Hey, I'm struggling." And um, the beautiful thing about when you self-advocate and like stand up for yourself, you're honest with yourself, and you say like, "Hey, I need help," is that when you receive the help, like you have no idea the prospect of where that can take you. And I didn't know it at the time, but my professor had essentially written the textbooks that we were using to do organic chemistry. He was interested in business, which I was as well, and so he was able to actually get me in contact with a couple of people. And right now, he's going to be writing one of my recommendation letters going to medical school. So there's relationships that come from advocating for yourself that will go like beyond what you ever could imagine. So make sure to do that. That's the closure of that story. But the story that I wanted to tell about advocating for yourself in college was a story of when I asked the question and answered it wrong in front of 600 people, I think. So my school is pretty big. Cornell has a undergrad population of 14,000 some thousand. It's a big school. And so as a result, a lot of our classes, if it's a general ed class, which means that, like it's required for all students to take, you can have like very, very large class sizes. There's one class called oceanography that sits up to 1,200 students. So that's just something to think about for college. Like size of classes can throw you off. But anyways, this was one of those gen ed classes, and learning from Orgo, I had told myself that I can't fake understanding things. Like moving forward, I told myself if I don't understand something and I need to understand it, we're going to raise our hands and ask a question. And I cannot encourage y'all enough to do that. If you don't understand something, guys, like it's okay to say that, and it's okay to like stop and ask for help. Because nobody else is going to do the work of trying to understand for you, and nobody can learn things for you, right? So in life, you know what I'm saying, like if you don't know how to do something, that's on you. Like nobody else can force you to do it. Nobody else can make you do something. And so just having that attitude to remember, like, you know what, I need to learn this for myself, just makes asking questions a lot easier. But story time. So this was a neurobiology class, and neurobiology is all about the brain. And at this point, we had to, I think it was something about like just knowing the different regions of the brain. And I asked my professor a question about this specific region. And my professor asked me back, like he asked me a question back to like follow up, right? So it's like, if you're in English class and you have a question about like, why did this character do X? And the professor goes back to you and says, well, what did the character do in the last chapter, right? It's like a really straightforward, simple setup. And my foolish behind answered the question completely wrong. Like just not even like, Danny, like what? It was just like, huh? You know what I'm saying? And you answer. I knew I was answering the question wrong because my friend next to me was like, no. And like people in the auditorium were just like, what? Like you just heard everybody just like, what? Huh? And I was freaking out once again. But I was like, okay, like brain fart moment, whatever. But for me, I tried to justify it like that, but I actually didn't understand. Like it turns out that I had completely misunderstood the material that we had to go over for, which is why he was asking the question. And so, as a result, I answered the question wrong. But when he was like, no, I was like, come again, like what? What are you talking about? He gave me the right answer, And I will never forget, after class, I have 5 people come up to me and be like, bro, thank you for getting that question wrong, because I didn't know what was going on either. Like, when you actually helped us learn something. And so in that moment, I'm not gonna lie, y'all, I was feeling really good, because I was like, look at me getting the questions wrong and helping the people. Like, everybody wins. But more importantly, the professor came up to me after class and was like, thank you for like being honest that you didn't understand. And like, let's keep in touch, let's keep following up on that. And so it worked out really well. I still have a relationship with that professor. And again, one of those, like, that relationship is an asset that I can use now going forward in medical school because of the experience. But bringing it back to this idea of self-advocating, and me asking that question, I put myself in a position to leave with more experience than what I first came in with. Even though I didn't know I was going to get the question wrong, right? And I did it in front of a bunch of people, I left that experience rich. Forget the embarrassment. Yeah, it was embarrassing, right? But at the end of the day, I left with a new relationship. I actually benefited the people around me because they didn't know what was going on either, right? And then for myself, I got an understanding of the material that I needed. And so I want to challenge you in this time, right? Like, this is really practical. If in one of your sessions you don't understand what's going on, raise your hand feature or whatever, just pop in. It's not that difficult. And if you fear that, like, oh, they're going to think I'm dumb or this is a dumb question, there's some people who say there are no dumb questions. I am very self-critical. I will go ahead and say, you know what? Sure, there are some dumb questions, okay? But that doesn't mean you shouldn't ask them still, right? Like, the quality of the question isn't supposed to warrant whether or not it's asked or not. It's whether you need an answer, right? And if you need an answer, if you got a question, ask a question. And I promise you, somebody else is thinking the same thing and needs more help at that. So ask questions and self-advocate, because that's one of the best ways to enrich yourself. And that's really, let me check my notes. Yeah, that's all I had. Mel, did 2 more minutes. You let me know. You muted. You muted.
Yeah, I'm muted. You're good.
Okay.
You're good.
All right.
Any questions as you listen to Danny?
Oh, I forgot to say this too. You're seeing like a bunch of Massillons on the screen. I'm the older brother of David and Stephen. Let's just get it out of the way now, because I know people are like, what? Oh, what's up, bros? But yeah.
What I took from this is the building of relationships. And as you're going through Prep at Pingree and Avid ALA during the summer, build those relationships with your student instructors, teachers, me, because as I said at the opening meeting, there's not much I can do for you, but you going to this program and completing it, I will write a recommendation for any job you want to apply to, because it shows perseverance and in you, but it's also building those relationships. So I hear you, and I also hear about failure. It's okay to fail. Nobody's perfect. Nobody. Any questions?
To that point, and just so to reinforce that, Mayo, I don't know like about y'all, but like there are certain positions, like when you get to college, where you're actually supposed to get stuff wrong, like and especially the school that I went to, Cornell's a research institution, which means that in the simplest of terms, they get a lot of money to make a lot of mistakes. That's the best way I can describe it. But as a result, right, like I had a research position, and I remember I had to like dissect a mouse a certain way, and I got it completely wrong, right? But that was part of the process of me learning, one, how to dissect a mice correctly, and that was like nobody freaked out and said, "Oh my gosh, like you've ruined everything." It was not alive; it was dead. Good question. But yeah, man, like don't fear failure at all. It's something to build off of. Um, but yeah, questions.
This isn't really like a question. I just want to say that I can relate to your experience with like you not, asking your friends for help. Well, so like those personality tests, like the
Yes, yeah.
this part of what are they called? Like Enneagram test?
Enneagram test.
Oh,
Yeah,
Enneagram. Yeah, Enneagram, Myers-Briggs. I know all of them. I'm hip.
I'm a 2, by the way.
You're a 2. Oh, wow. Okay.
So yeah, so I tend to like worry like about stuff. I don't show it, so like I mostly keep quiet about things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I feel like I can relate to that when you didn't ask your friends.
Yeah, I'm a 4, and my best friend is a 2, and that's the very interesting. It was a very interesting in college. Though I guess like a practical thing, just in terms of incentive, is to share that you're like, this is hard. Like whoever your friends are, if they're your real friends, they should respect that. Like you having to reach out is difficult. And so, it took, I remember saying like, y'all, I really don't want to say this, but I'm gonna say it, right? Or like, this makes me feel really small to say this, but I'm gonna say it. And as a result, I trust my friends more now, right? Like in that moment, I was like, but now I know they have my back more. So, yeah.
I have a question.
Go for it.
So knowing what you know now about Pingree and about Cornell,
Yes.
would you have chosen to attend then?
No.
Either or both?
No.
Neither.
Oh, well, not neither. I would have still gone to Pingree. I would have not gone to Cornell for a couple. And remember what I said about people making the place. Cornell, as an institution, was probably one of the worst experiences that I had. And I'm being brutally honest with y'all, okay? I'm not gonna get paid. I'm still paying them. My student loans are a thing, right? Like if we're being honest about college, Cornell is such a big institution that as much as they market themselves putting students first and caring, I wish I had my wallet to show y'all. To Cornell, I am 419-2941. Right? Anytime I went into to the like health center on campus, if you don't have your ID card for a meal swipe, you're trying to mail something, everything is what's your ID? What's your ID number? And so there was this certain like, I don't know, it just seemed superficial level of community that the institution tried to create. That I was just like, I fell for that. That being said, the people that I met there, top, like superb. The other thing is money. So Cornell is just really, really, really expensive. And I was blessed to have a good financial aid package. If y'all ever had to apply for financial aid, hit me up. We could talk about it. I'm really good at it. Like, and yeah, so just, we could talk about that. But the first 2 years of college was not worth what most people pay for. So the first 2 years of college, and this is generally true of any 4-year institution, are a lot of prerequisite classes. So unless you're taking all APs right now in high school, people in your own house could use your services. I don't know what that means, Steven. But unless you're in
your financial aid services, I believe is.
Oh, yeah, we'll talk. We'll talk. But yeah, so like, Steven, you made me lose my train of thought now. We were talking, oh yes, we're talking about prerequisites. So things like calculus, physics, even if you're taking a language, all of those kind of things you end up taking again. And so paying $60,000 to relearn a bunch of material in a little bit more detail just was not it. A lot of private higher education places are really marketing the second 2 years to you, which is when you declare your major and you know you're going really, really deep into whatever area of interest you've declared. So for me, mine was neurobiology. I love that. Like, I would never trade the classes that I took there because like my professors are literally the ones writing the textbooks on the stuff. But in my opinion, if I could do it over again, I would have gone to community college my first 2 years, and then I would have applied into another program. That was a long answer, Mr. Flo. I'm sorry, but yeah.
And you would have gone to Pingree?
I would have gone to Pingree. I would have gone to Pingree because for all that I went through, I think Pingree as an institution has an agenda that I don't see a lot of places follow through on in a lot of ways. So as a student, I don't think I could have had the level of education and experience that I did at Pingree anywhere else. I got to go to France for free. I got to sing at the TD Garden, right? I sang the national anthem there. I performed at the Boston Wang Theater. I was exposed to a level of wealth and financial management that I'd never seen before in my life. I got to meet a lot of interesting people and expose myself to material in terms of like class content that I wouldn't have gotten at my public schools, that I wouldn't have gotten at other Christian schools that I was looking at. And I think for me personally, that was worth all of the adjustments that I had to go through socially, just being a high school student, the drive every day. That was a lot, but I would have still done it.
Are you still singing?
I am. I'm on Spotify. New stuff coming soon. Oh wow, is this promo? Stephen and David will do that work for me.
Link it in the chat.
Got you. I have to talk. They're actually my production people right now, so you know, yeah. Sit back, David. Sit back.
Are they getting paid?
Huh?
Are they getting paid?
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. Say it again.
Are your assistants getting paid?
What?
Huh? Breaking up. Breaking up.
They getting paid in experience. How many other people can say they help their brother produce music and all that stuff? Come on now.
I do that on my own.
Who's saying that? Is that Jeffrey?
Possibly.
Okay. Jeffrey, we'll talk.
You guys need a union.
Here we go.
All right. Any more questions? One more question for Danny before we close up. Okay. Thank you, Danny. Thank you very much for your time and your patience with us and your stories. We'll call you back again because we're going to have another one for Prep at Pingree.
Anytime.
But thank you. And as you think back to that time when Prep at Pingree alums came back to see you when you were in 7th grade, and it's gone full circle now. But the biggest thing is the time. You know, the time goes quickly. So we're talking to 10th and 11th graders. You have even less time. Okay? It goes quickly. But take note to what Danny said because it'll ring true. What he talked about, I went through. I had the same telephone call with my mother and father in my freshman year. And I talked to my father. I was talking to my mother. Back then, we just had rotary phones, if you know what those are. And my father was on the line. I was just crying my heart out to my mom saying, I want to go home. And my father said no and hung up the phone, and that was it. And I finished 4 years. But we all go through it. But it's good to have somebody there to talk to.
Absolutely. Monique, don't be stressed. Don't be stressed. The thing is, right, like, it's better to know these things now
Yes.
than to go through the experience, right? The way I think about it is on a plane, right? Think of pilots. The best pilots are the ones who tell you there's gonna be turbulence, right? Before you take off. Rather than somebody, you feel the bumps and somebody, what was that? The pilot's like, nothing. You know what I'm saying? So if you know it's coming, I promise you'll actually be able, like I remember my first all-nighter, I was like, oh, I knew this was coming, right? Like, and it's low-key a little exciting, but you'll be good. You'll be good.
Well, thank you for that analogy with the plane and the pilots, because we have other organizations like that too.
Yeah. Oh, hey now.
Hey. Well, thank you. Thank you all.
You guys.
No turbulence here.
No.
Smooth ride. Just because you're throwing up doesn't mean it's not a smooth ride.
Man. Oh, man.
Just pull down the window screen. You won't feel a thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Now, all right, guys. Thank you all. Join us again next week, same time. We're going to have someone else speak. It may be you. We never know. But thank you. Have a good day. And I recorded this too. Oh, boy.
Oh, look at you.
I'm so good. I'm so good. Just like I talked to my parent. Good boy. Good boy. He talks back.
David wants to talk to you.
Oh, yes. Go right ahead. What's so funny?
David's getting camera shot now. No, we just thought you had some funny jokes there.
I had some anecdotes.
So
Antidotes.
funny
What did you
jokes.
say?
Funny jokes, man.
Oh, funny jokes. I
Yeah.
also had some anecdotes, but yes, funny jokes.
See, we gotta go eat. We gotta go. I'll check you out, man.
Hey, you guys behave down there. I've been down to Lynn.
Don't know where I reside.
All right. Who's calling me? Why are you calling me? Oh my gosh. Everybody's gone now. All righty.